Okay, welcome folks. All right, now maybe you're a beginner and don't like the sound you're making. Maybe you're a parent and want to help your child sound better, or maybe just not drive you crazy. Or maybe you're a teacher looking for some tips and tricks to help your students. You're all welcome, and in my 35 or so years of teaching and gigging, this is what I've come up with to help fix this most violinistic problem. In this video, I'll teach you the top 3 reasons why violinists sometimes produce a scratchy or squeaky sound. This video will not be quite long enough to go into every possible detail on the subject, but in full disclosure, I'm the founder of an online school called the Fiddle Institute, and there you can find all the details and much, much more. I encourage you to check it out and see what it might have to offer you. The site is set up so that the general public can see at least a description of each lesson and see a few lessons for free. And then we have officially registered membership levels. One called the free Fiddle Jam Club, which is free, of course, as the title says, and you get to see a dozen free lessons and see at least one element of each of the hundreds of lessons that we have. One more element, like a chart or an audio track, to see what a little more of the lesson is about. And then we have our full all-access pass membership, which is $29.95 a month. That gives you access to every lesson, every chart, every audio track, every play-along thing, every video. There's hundreds of lessons on the site currently, and we're making more all the time. So please feel free to check that out. End of commercial. Now let's get to the main subject today, how to not sound scratchy or squeaky on a violin. So, what makes it scratch or squeak? If you know how to make it scratch or squeak, then you can apply reverse engineering to undo that. So the real first question is, how do you make it sound bad on purpose? Might seem kind of crazy, but then you'll know exactly what not to do. That's the fast track to getting rid of the scratches and squeaks. So, now on advanced levels, you can then learn to bring them back for some coolness factor. You can do stuff like a little raspiness at the beginning of the note. You can do stuff like harmonic squeals or chopping. It's cool stuff. Now we'll cover those more advanced details on the site, of course. Well, let's get to the real reasons. Okay, so the top 3 reasons why violinists scratch and squeak is number 1, improper bow pressure versus speed. Talk about that in a second. Number 2, improper bow placement and direction. And number 3, left hand or fingering hand problems. All 3 of those can create these sounds that we want to, cover our ears or feel like our nails are on the chalkboard. So let's go over some plain English quick fixes on all 3 of these problems. Problem number 1, remember, was improper bow pressure versus speed. The quick fix is simply don't press too hard and move the bow too slow. Alright? Sounds like frog farts. I've taught many a 4-year-old how to do that, and they have great fun, everybody giggles, and the kid has a good time. Now, a disclaimer for teachers is that, if you teach a 4-year-old that's all they'll want to do for a while. And the positive is they know what not to do later, and eventually they will tire of it. But for right now, you try it. Grab your bow with your fist, place it near the frog, and press too hard, quite hard, and move way too slow. So, now you're probably not making a sound that bad, but lessen that up. You can press hard, start with the scratch, and then lessen the pressure and increase the speed. Try it the other direction. You'll learn where that spot is, where that point with the pressure and the speed match to make a good sound and get rid of the scratch. That's number 1. Okay, the top 3 problems. The problem number 2, if you remember, was improper bow placement and direction. Now, parallel to the bridge is very important. If you're bowing crooked, let's see if I can demonstrate this in the camera. Well, first let's go completely crooked. If you're doing it at an angle, it's going to sound weird. But what happens? Well, if you draw the bow down the string, it's kind of a cool sound if you want to sound like a didgeridoo. That sound is actually the hair jiggling on the string, not the string making a sound, actually, I think. But anyways, what happens if you draw the bow crooked is it mixes that in with this. See. Hear that? Or the other way. The two mix together. So that's one reason not having a pure sound. So, parallel to the bridge. See if I can do it right in the camera for you. Here's the bridge. There's the stick of the bow. Parallel. That sound. Not this way, and not this way, or this way, but straight across. Perpendicular to the string and parallel to the bridge. Alright? So that'll help you. The other thing that brings into play in that is sometimes it's the grip. I hate to call it a grip because it makes it seem like it's firm. Your bow hold will matter. If you lop the pinky over, look what happens. It tends to make the bow crooked. If you stick your index out too far, it tends to make it go like this, or do weird things, or locks your wrist so that when you come out toward the tip, you have to go around the corner. That's not good either. So a good bow hold, relaxed, will help a lot. Wrap your index, pinky on top, and thumb if you're just beginning on the bottom of the frog, or on the stick if you're a little more advanced, and everything curved and relaxed. If you're flipping your thumb inside out, that's not good. If you're tensing everything, if your knuckles are turning white, not good. Relax. It's a good bow hold, and it works, and that'll help you bow straight as well. The other part of this quick fix was the bow planes, as I like to call them. In other words, are you drawing the bow straight for each string? The violin, as you know, has a curved bridge. It's curved so that you can hit one string at a time. So let's aim it right at the camera here. So if it's just the D string, are you drawing the bow on a flat imaginary plane for the whole stroke? In other words, don't dip the frog at the tail end of it so that the tip goes up in the air and you hit the A string. Each string has its own plane. You need to be spatially aware and draw the bow along that flat imaginary slope or plane. So the shoulder muscles have to learn where that is. So it's important to hold the bow consistently and hold the violin consistently and let the muscles learn and memorize where those 4 notches are. And there's also, when you get into fiddling or other things, we play double strings sometimes too. So there's 3 more in between ones. So there's just the G, there's just the D, and then there's the G and D. It's a slight bow plane in between. So G, G, D, D, D and A and E, and E. So your shoulder muscles have to learn, and you have to have a straight stroke to play double strings especially. One good way, if you're having trouble with this, I'll give you a quick fix, is to do a 2-handed stroke at first. Now this is a little dangerous. I'm trying to get it in the camera here. I wouldn't advise doing it just like this by putting it on your knee. But maybe you could put the violin on a table or in your lap safely and bow it first. I've had good success with this. For even adults, I had a 93-year-old woman who started at 93 and couldn't get the hang of it. But when I had her do some of this, all of a sudden the 2 hands connected to her brain. I think it involved both sides of her brain. So, stroke flat, single strings only, using both hands. Somehow that connects it to the same brain or something. And then when you play normally, you're more aware of the bow stroking through the air, spatially aware. So that'll help on problem number 2. All right, now the second problem of placement and direction problems actually leads us to the third reason. They're related. The third reason, as you may remember, is fingering problems. So in this hand, or this hand if you play left-handed. Anyways, most people play right-handed. And, well, first let's go over the most pressing problem on this one. It's not pressing hard enough. If you don't press the fingers down firmly, you get this kind of squeak. Press down firmer. You get a nice clear sound. Now I mentioned at the beginning of the video there's an advanced technique where you can lighten the pressure up while you're vibratoing. Get kind of electronic or electric guitar kind of squeal thing. That's kind of cool. That's covered on the site. So many classical teachers especially will talk about heavy fingers, light bow. I even had some of my students play with once they put the bow on the string with just their thumb and index to learn a very light touch and press firmly with the strings on the string. Actually have them make a thwacking sound at first to get used to the right amount of pressure. So that can help. Now, there's one of the worst squeaks and squeals you ever hear in a violin is related to this finger placement stuff. And this needs to be addressed as well. Even if you're pressing firmly enough, the combination of the second problem, which was bow angle and placement and direction, with the fingers. Now, the fingers need to be up in their tips. If you flatten them out too much, the back side of the finger, see if I can get a good camera angle on this. The back side of the finger, I don't know if you'll be able to see it from here. If the back side of the finger here, see, is touching the next open string inside the hand. So let's see, there it is, in there. It's okay if you're just playing on the A string. In this case, I have my finger on the A string, second finger. But usually the skin of that finger, part of the pad of the finger, will also be touching the next string inside the hand, the E string. If your bow happens to dip a little bit in your stroke and your hand goes downward, it gets off the plane, it will drag on the E string. Yuck. What's actually happening is it's the same as if you weren't pressing the string down hard enough. But it's mixing that in because you're really fingering on the A string in this example. And if your bow drags on the E string, that's the most horrible sound anybody want to hear, I think. So that's what's happening. It's the bow's problem. It's kind of a combination of the two problems, but it's the bow's problem. If your stroke goes crooked, even though that C sharp I'm playing is clear, if I dip the bow to the string, it's the back side of the flesh of that finger just touching the side of the E string, and the bow is touching the wrong string too. That's the worst one, I think. So I hope those three things help. We can go into much, much more detail on the site. Please come to the site and check it out. And we'll sound bad together, and then good. So, to review, the three problems that make you sound bad on the violin, squeaky and scratchy. Number one, don't press too hard, and don't move too slow. Keep that bow moving. Don't be afraid to move your arm. Some people are emotionally timid and they think they're going to make a scratchy sound, so they tense up and move less. That makes it worse. Relax. Be confident and stroke that arm. Don't be afraid to move it quickly. Number two was keep the bow parallel to the bridge, the right angle, and the right bow planes. And the bow grip helps. A proper bow grip. If you're holding your fist, it's tougher. If you hang the pinky over, if you tighten up the index too much, relaxed, wrap the index, pinky on top, thumb curved, or thumb on the bottom. But either way, it's got to be curved. All right? That'll help you stroke it straight. And be aware of the tip. Don't just stare here when you're bowing. That's where you're bowing, of course, but the most important part is what the tip is doing, because if you're a little bit off of the frog, the tip is magnified. So if the tip is wobbling around, your bow planes are not true and flat. All right? So be aware of the tip up there as you're doing it. That's a good tip. Good tip about the tip. And number three was the left hand or the fingering hand problems. Firm fingers. Simple as that. Light bow, heavy fingers. And it's related also to the bow planes. If your bow planes are off and you still have the firm fingers but drag on the wrong string, it gets a bad sound. So there's the three. Pressure, angle, and firm fingers. Now you can see and hear many more details on these subjects on the website. I'll go into more specific exercises, how to work on these things and work them out of your problem spots, so you can sound good all the time at will, whenever you want, or sound bad whenever you want. It's up to you, or mix them in. Hope that helped.